So ScriptRunner Connect is our new tool, well, newish. It's been around for a little bit now, but it's a code-first integration platform. The idea is to give you the ability to connect to essentially anything that you have in your software ecosystem within your business, and give you the ability to write scripts that allow you to connect those tools together in complex and unique ways that everyone needs in their own business. So, many of you will be familiar with something that looks a little bit like this. The bigger your company is, the bigger this will look, where you have a load of different apps, a load of different departments, each using different suites of apps that are almost siloed but separate. And the current or previous solution to doing this was to have to connect them using a variety of different connectors, either connectors that are designed to connect single apps to each other, or connect one to maybe two. Essentially, your system will look a lot like this, and that is a lot of red circles to have to manage those connectors, to manage what they're doing, to keep on top of them, update them, etc. So what we've built is ScriptRunner Connect, which is designed to replace all of those and give you the ability to have one tool to create connections between all of your products. All of those products, each team member is using those products. By connecting those products, you connect your business together. That is an entire company that is now able to communicate with each other, have pieces of information pass between the app they're working on and the team that they maybe never ever talk to their app, to ensure that your entire business software ecosystem is connected, communicated, and working as efficiently as possible. So there we can see some of the ideas we have. So data consistency, being ensure that data is obviously consistent across products, automating workflows, not only in products that actually use workflows, but an entire software workflow from your entire business perspective. And we can also do migration of data as well. And ensuring that all your teams are aligned as well. So this is a closer look at the tool in terms of what we do. So you can see there a number of logos. We support a load of tools native out of the box, but we also have what we call the generic connector. This means we can essentially connect to anything as long as we can communicate with it. We have a number of features to make life as easy as possible as it can be to write code. Sometimes it's still a little bit complicated, but there are tools there to help you make that life easier, including pre-existing examples, or the managed API, which allows you to write code natively, allowing the editor to feed back information to you so that you can essentially almost write code without thinking about it. And you can see there the use cases and solutions that are solved by automation, synchronization between products, which is a very common use case, but also migration, which we'll be talking more about in a little bit, and some positive outcomes that come from having a more effective and efficient software ecosystem. And again, just another nutshell, another summary of what ScriptRunner Connect is, but proudly code first, giving you the ability to customize and make unique connections between your products that suit you, your business, not what the tool allows you to do. Assisted code environment to make complex connections, making that as easy as possible by giving you a tool that feeds back to you. Collaborating, so giving you the ability to work easily with your team members, your admin groups, anyone you want to get involved in these projects. Central hub for all of your integrations, so you don't have to worry about managing 55 different tools. And secure and reliable. We're ScriptRunner, we've been around for a while, we know what we're doing, so we're pretty good at making sure that everything is running smoothly. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over. That's that one, and that way. Yeah.
Okay, so Hitesh Bechar, I'm Solutions Consultant here at Tempo. Before we get into it, quick show of hands. Who's familiar with Tempo? Who's seen it before? Who's used it? With hands, go on, yeah, great. Alright, so Tempo. We are a Atlassian Platinum partner for enterprise applications. For those who are not familiar with us, we have over 30,000 customers across the world, including a third of the Fortune 500, so really good selection of customers there. Now historically, customers know us as the kind of timesheet company, right? You use our timesheet applications. What we've now got is a complete SPM solution. So building upon timesheets, we've now got capacity planning solutions, which means you can do your long-term plan with your long-term teams, and you can also look at individual resources to see what capacity you've got in your organisation, which allows you to plan for now and the future. Using capacity planner and timesheets together means you can then do cost tracking, right, to understand what are those project costs, what are labor costs, what are non-labor costs, what are the other project costs that you've got associated with those projects, and you can use Financial Manager to understand that information. Customers then say, okay, brilliant, but we want to be able to visualize this information in a dashboard or a report. So we have custom charts which allows you to visualize your Jira data, build these dashboards to show the information that's relevant to you in your organization. And you can also bring in kind of external information. So if you've got, for example, HR systems like Workday, or you use Power BI for reporting, you can use our BI connectors to bring that information in to those custom charts, into those dashboards, so you've got that consolidated view of all of that information. Taking it up a level, structure. This is probably one of our most used products, most kind of frequented products. Structure allows you to almost visualize your Jira data in a way that makes sense to you in your organization. So whether you're organizing your work by epics, teams, scrum teams, safe trains, whatever your methodology is, structure will allow you to visualize the data. And then taking it up a level, you've got strategic roadmaps, which is almost, if you think of your boardroom level roadmaps, right? So you've got a high level plan over the next 5 years, you've got strategic initiatives, and you've got people in the organization who just need to know how you're progressing against those initiatives. So that's where strategic roadmaps comes in and helps you to visualize those roadmaps and connects that strategy to the execution. Great, and the great thing about Tempo, right? I mean, there's loads of great things, but 3 key things. First and foremost, it's modular. So you don't have to necessarily do a big bang approach and say, I'm going to go with everything. Because traditionally, SPM solutions are huge things, right? They're monolithic. So what we try and do is have this modular approach where we say, let's start with your most pressing concern. Is that capacity? Is that road mapping? Is that time sheeting? Whatever it may be, you can start with that and then build out your use cases as your organization evolves. We're also flexible, so we don't necessarily care if you're fully agile, if you're fully waterfall, or if you use a hybrid of the two, which is the most common scenario. Our tools are flexible, adapting to your processes rather than making you work in a given way. And finally, we're scalable, right? So you can start off with a couple of teams, but it's built for the enterprise. So, as your kind of organization evolves over time, your use cases evolve, we can fully support you with that. And of course, we're Jira native, right? So everything that I've talked about, everything you would have seen, is built on top of Jira. So you're already familiar with that environment, all you're doing is building on top of that. Slide, please. A couple of enterprise kind of migration scenarios. I won't go through all of these, but the key ones are when we've got customers who are typically on data center, what they want to do is just migrate over to the cloud, first and foremost. Once they're on the cloud, they'll then think about optimizing those instances. But the key point is, how do we get onto the cloud in the first place? ScriptRunner is a fantastic way to make that transition. And then we see some use cases where customers are using external tools. They could be using lightweight time-sheeting tools, for example, that we provide, the competitors provide, but they eventually want to migrate up to Tempo timesheets, which is now the enterprise kind of ready solution for those customers. So it's quite a lot on there. I will hand it back to Bobby for the demo.
Awesome.
Thank you
very much. Yeah, good try that. So ScriptRunner Connect at its core is a tool that gives you the ability to create connections to products and write scripts that interact between those products, which is obviously very powerful for automation, integration, but also for migration. So one thing we realized, or we found, was that there was a gap that allowed us to, when we built a template, a pre-existing workspace, pre-existing code to allow you to migrate your Tempo worksheets from one cloud instance to another. There was a gap that was currently existing that people were struggling with, so we wrote the code to do that. So when you go to ScriptRunner Connect, you're going to...
Hello, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you, this is ScriptRunner Connect, and I'm going to be showing you how you can use the template for migrating your Tempo timesheets from one cloud instance to another. So for this demonstration, I've got my ScriptRunner Connect instance. This is the home page, and I have got 2 different Jira instances. So this is ScriptRunner Cloud Demo, and this is ScriptRunner Team 24. However, they've both got Tempo projects, but as you can see here in my first Jira issue, the Tempo, the items have Tempo time logs. And in the correlating issue, so Tempo 3, I go to the timesheets, there are no time logs. So we're going to be migrating from one source to the other. So the first thing to do is to go to templates and go and filter by Tempo Cloud. And then we're going to be selecting migrate Tempo timesheets work log from one instance to another. So here we have the template. We're already happy with this. We're going to go and click create. And we're going to be renaming this to migration demo and click create. This then gives us the workspace of all of the code and pre-built read into it. We have a full README here that gives you full instructions on everything that needs to be set up, etc., and all the information about the migration details. And as you can see from the environment variables on the right-hand side, there is a lot of configurable options here that are available to use. I'm not going to be using this. I'm just going to be keeping it quite simple, and I'm going to be defining the project that we're moving from Foobar to Tempo. Everything else I'm going to be leaving as default. I'm going to save that. And I also need to up my connections. So I'm going to be connecting from source, which is, as we can see, the source is SEP 2024. And the target is the Team 24 demo cloud. And we're going to do the same with the Tempo connectors. And then finally, we're going to be setting up the synchronization URL, which gives us a URL where we can watch the migration occurring. So right now, this is going to be empty because, as you can see, no migration found. We still haven't even run a migration yet, but it's ready there for us to use. So now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Migrate Work Logs. And we're going to see in the console that it's going to start executing. There are going to be some errors here because I've purposely limited some of the, although, sorry, there won't be any errors, but we will see the migration working. So now if I go to here, well, actually, let's go to the report. So if I go to this report and refresh this page, we can now see that the migration is running. We can see stats and information about the particular migration, as well as the batches that have been processed. So if I refresh this, you can see a second batch is now running and we're processing through the work logs. There are about 300 issues in this Tempo project. So it's going to take a few seconds. So we're just going to wait a few seconds for that to finish. I'll pause here and we'll come back when it's done. So welcome back. You can see now the end time has changed from in progress to a date and time. It took us about 1.5 minutes to process all of these, and you can see the batches that were done. And now just to confirm that that has migrated, if I go back to Tempo 3, we can see that that work log is still there. And if I go to Tempo 3 here, we'll be able to see now that the work log has successfully migrated over. Again, just to do a double check, we'll check Tempo 4 and Tempo 4, and they should match up with Tempo work logs. You can see Tempo 4 didn't have any work logs, so there was no need to migrate any. Let's go with Tempo 7 and check that there were work logs to migrate. There was, and the Tempo 7 on the target instance has the same work logs. So you can see there the migration was successful, managing to migrate all of our Tempo work logs from one cloud instance to another. It took me about 30 seconds to set up the template. Admittedly, as mentioned at the beginning, there are a lot of configurable options here, including what the JQL query of the timesheets you want to migrate to and from, the date range of the migration, billable seconds, keeping remaining SOL. All of these configurables will mean that maybe it might take longer for you to set up your particular migration as opposed to my simple migration. But you can see the quickness and easiness of how I can set this up to migrate workloads from one instance to another. And again, the README is here for full instructions on not only what everything does, everything works, the migration logic. So we actually walk you through the scripted logic. You don't have to read the script to understand it. And everything you need to understand this migration is available to you here. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of the day.
A relatively quick and simple example of how ScriptRunner Connect can be used for not just the thing it's been advertised as, it's an integration tool, can also be used for migrations. Pre-existing templates make life easier. We're always looking to build more templates. We're always looking to build connections to other tools. What's worthwhile noting is that whilst here we connected to Jira and Tempo, which are both managed connections that we support, you can connect to anything using our generic connector. So anything that has a REST API you can communicate with, you can integrate, migrate, you can do whatever you want as long as there's a REST API to allow you to interact with it. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.